Hello, my fellow fish out of water, and welcome back to the East Coast. You know, when we were kids, we all thought this was the future of AI. Little did we know that AI, plus a generally degraded attention span, would give us this.
Tralalero Tralala, shark with blue shoes, slides through the sea like he's got nothing to lose.
So let's make a shark wearing shoes. In an effort to not buy printer ink, I'll trace the profile of a shark off the interwebs and sketch on some appropriately colored shoes. And in another cost-saving venture, the shark's core will be made of aluminium foil. This aluminium nugget will get a coat of bacon bond to help the initial layer of clay to stick. And as this process takes oddly a lot longer than you think, I'll just tap it on for visual brevity. I can then give this a quick check against my sketch and start to bulk up the upper jaws. Speaking of upper jaws, did you know you have one? I'll then apply a wobbly skirt to our murder torpedo and roughly smooth in all the edges, as sharks, regardless of whether they be land or sea dwelling, have naturally evolved to be aqua and aerodynamic, making land sharks a serious threat to swimmers and cyclists alike. I can then start bulking up the cheeks and show off my new sculpting tools, as Dublin Airport security took all of mine for fear I would craft my way into the cockpit somehow. I met a geologist that saw the situation unfold, and he told me that airports keep taking his tiny hammers, so he stopped bringing them on planes. That aside, it's time to make some shark legs. Or arms. Flippers? Well, arms with feet? This doesn't have to make sense, just hold my hand and let's just go with it. To give the arms the required strength, I'll double helix some medium weight aluminium wire and wrap it around the main body within a pre-carved trench, pull it extra tight, and bend in the wrist ankle. I find this a much better resolution than putting a single arm straight through a baked model, as there's no rotation at all. I can from here patch up any of the damaged areas before repeating the process for the third leg, which is also the anal fin, which begs the question, what's happening in that shoe?
Oh my god!
Now that we've magicked our clay to be usable, we can start to build up the facial structure based on some eye-opening internet research. I'll then approximate the eyeball location and line that up with the opposing side before carving out the cavernous vacuum of a shark's gullet. Whilst doing this, I'll see that I was slightly heavy-handed in the body foil bulking and will need to extract the foil with the same level of care that a dentist gives your wisdom teeth. The lower jaw is looking a little elongated, so I'll trim that back and I will score in some skin folds to that fat neck, as this boy's mouth is wide open. This doesn't end up doing a whole lot right now, so we'll return later and do it a little more proficiently. With the body looking adequately smooth, we can begin to add the lateral lines down either side of the body, smoothing and blending as we go. We'll start with the hard shaper and then followed by a silicone shaper to smooth out that skin. Then, no fish is complete without some juicy fish lips. To make said fish lips, I'll add a small noodly doodad to the top lip and blend that in before completing the same process on the bottom lip. Finally, I can add a little bit of volume to the lower jaw and then some skin folds to the jowls before moving on to the arm legs. To help the clay adhere to the wire, I'll firstly lay down a base layer of bacon bond and then add the fin and pinch that into shape. And if I'm a shark that has evolved to walk on my flippers, I have to imagine I would have evolved to have the calves and the delts of a Mr. Olympia champion. I can bulk out these delts with an adequate amount of clay, and then I can smooth it around with a silicone shaper and with a scraping tool scrape in some striations. With the arm legs in place, this shark needs a trio of feet and a quartet of toes, because this project is already weird enough without me granting this abomination 5 toes. And remember, if you enjoyed this kind of content and want to see more of it and hear more of me, then feel free to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. This lets YouTube know that my stuff is worth watching and gives me the validation that I never got as a child. You know, the analytics show 75% of you beautiful boys and girls keep coming back without subscribing. So like, imagine being hungry, making a sandwich, and then someone comes along and eats 75% of your sandwich and then leaves. Without a word. You can see that during that rant I have added the shark's dinner bell alert system, followed by the second dorsal fin, and finally the pelvic fin to the pelvis? Well, I can add that to my list of things I never thought about. Do sharks have pelvises? Or is it pelvis? I can then proceed to the caudal fin, which is too heavy for the still soft tail, so I'll put that aside for now and I'll make some teeth. Now I don't know how many teeth I'll need, so I'm going to take the more is more approach and make all the teeth. I'll flatten out some clay in my pasta maker and cut in some crisscross patterns and bake for a paltry 5 minutes. I then stab the gums to make way for some teeth, which I can scrape off the well-used mini cheesecake tray, break them apart with a crumple, and insert each tooth to a non-specific gum hole, finally making our gummy boy a toothy boy. As is, I'm sure, biologically accurate, after we get our teeth, then we grow some eyeballs. And in the case of great white sharks, they definitely have eyelids when on land, as rolling your eyes into the back of your head on land is largely impractical. For some added texture, I'll use a ball stylus to rough up the gums, and with some cling film, I can cover the face and emphasize the upper lip skin folds rolling up over the gums. Next up, he can receive his nostrils for smelling blood in the air. And though a shark may not have leathery skin, I'm going to add a leathery texture to the top body because A, I'm at home in my jammies, B, this is a sculpture of a shark wearing shoes, and C, this is my channel, and I do what I want. Full transparency, I was seconds away from baking this before noticing that it had no gills. Said gills were added with a quick score, then given some depth and followed up with an incident-free washdown of isopropyl alcohol where absolutely nothing went wrong.
2 seconds later.
Something quick. And with nothing going wrong at all, I bake the body and can now add the caudal fin and the caudal keel. Attaching these two follows much the same patterns as everything else. The only difference is that you really got to be careful of the joints when matching soft clay with baked clay, but once you get it real warm, real soft, they blend in quite nicely. Then we can take him away and bake him before prime time. I usually spray on the primer, but today in order to afford food, I'll be using a basic acrylic white and the corner of a much larger sponge. Firstly, I'll paint the fleshy feet in a fleshy tan colour because, well, why not? Secondly, I'll paint the toenails a bright white as I assume sharks' toenails would be much like their teeth and fall out on the regular to be replaced with another toenail behind, stored safely within the toe. The mouth gets a bubblegum pink and the entire body gets a thick but thinned out coating of a grey wash. I just mixed a black and white with some flow improver and a little bit of water, and I'll just let that seep into all the little cracks and crevices that we made with the cling film and the steel tool earlier. I'll give this a few seconds to get tacky and then tap off the excess with a paper towel. It's important to wipe down your bench before proceeding. Now it's important to note that I don't have what you would call a process, so to speak. Especially not for color mixing or color theory, so this is very much the winging it portion of the video. Now I know that I want a grey-blue color, and so I naturally mixed a black and a white to make the grey, and then gradually added different blues until I was happy with this color. I'll apply this liberally to the top, and with a dry brush I'll stipple the color bridge for the counter shading. Fun fact, counter shading is a type of camouflage where a shark is lighter on the underside to blend in with the sunlit surface of the water, and darker from above so as to blend in with the ocean depths. Nature time is over, and now it's time for some socks. I'll roll out some sock tops and wrap around the wrist ankles before adding slight folds with the edge of the sculpting tools. You can really use anything around it for this. And for the shoes, I'll start with the tongue and then wrap a strip of blue clay around the remainder of the foot. I can then carve in some seams to create some visual interest, and against my better judgment, I'll use my clay extruder to make some laces, which I can meticulously insert into some pre-poked shoelace holes. I should probably mention that the shoes are actually baked at this point. So while I carry on doing stuff in the background, let me know in the comments section below, what is your favorite shark movie? Or better yet, what I really want to hear is, what's your favorite guilty pleasure shark movie? Because for me, it is without doubt Deep Blue Sea. I remember going to go see that in a place called The Square in Tala, in Dublin. And yeah, I'll never forget when Sam Jackson bit it. Just classic cinema. But you know what, don't stop there. Let me know, what's your favorite B movie? Because even though I love Deep Blue Sea, I think there's a lot to be said for Deep Rising. May not have been a shark, but that's just quality B movie. Back to our regular broadcast. The black eyes, lifeless like a doll's eyes, get painted black. The teeth get painted white, then white, and finally, you guessed it, white. I'll very lightly dry brush the edge of the skin and also the gums in a near white pink. I'll then apply a sparrow's fart edge highlight to the topmost of the sharp edges, and I'll even feather out those edges to blend in with the rest of the skin. For the final touches, I'll glaze the shoes in a dark blue and apply a high gloss varnish to the mouth, the teeth, and the eyes. And with that, our blue shoe sporting shark is finished, and we're on to those sexy beach shots.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
A big ol' thank you for those that are returning, and a howdy doody to all those that are new here. I do hope you enjoyed this weird little sculpture this week. We've already picked a spot for him to live in. He's going to be living in a plant in the kitchen. Do like the video if you liked it, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment, let me know what you want to see me do in the future. And until next time, go make a mess.